Hi, I'm Jimmy Colfax and this is The Story. Our guest today is Grammy Award-winning songwriter Mitch Wong, who was born and raised in Australia and now lives full-time in Nashville, Tennessee. Before the break, we heard about his heritage and how he became a Christian. Next, we'll hear how his faith grows, along with his desire to compose songs for the Lord.
I think that started to bleed into everything that I did, whether
including
it was,
wanting to be an author and
exactly,
everything?
yeah. So whether it was writing or singing or writing songs, that's kind of what started that. It was that decision to follow Jesus. And so my youth leader, he started writing songs and just showed me probably 4 chords on the piano. And
so up to that point, you were more just hitting the drums.
Yeah, well, we had it
there's
was
probably a better
xylophone.
term
Like
than
I
hitting
knew
the drums.
I knew more than hitting drums. It was more. I had a lot of theory that I knew, and we did a lot of xylophone and marimba, which is actually really similar to piano because it's the same layout. And my mum was a piano player, really good one, and a flute player. So she had this whatever musical gift I have, I get from her, and so we had a piano at home because she'd kept one for our whole lives. And when I was 15, I started just sitting at the piano for hours and hours and hours and just starting to write these melodies and write songs.
Did you have piano lessons and all that?
Well, funny story. I did have piano lessons when I was 5 years old, really young.
Oh, okay.
But I remember I quit because it is a funny way to quit piano. But I loved it. However, I needed to clip my nails one time and I accidentally left the nail clippings on the side of the piano. And I remember our piano teacher came and she was teaching my older sister as well. And they found these nail clippings and I got so embarrassed that I'm like, I just don't want to learn piano anymore.
We almost missed out this generation's Mozart because of nail clippings.
I wouldn't say this generation's Mozart, but yes,
close.
This it was just one of those things as a kid that I'm like, no, I don't want to play piano again. I was so, I don't know, embarrassed
but
about it.
But you overcame. The Lord helped you overcome
this. God is good.
That's beautiful.
So at 15, I start playing again and just loving it. And I think I'm actually really grateful it happened that way because the way that
as bizarre
I play,
as it is.
Yeah, as bizarre as it is. Because if I had kept up with classical, it's actually really hard to transition from classical playing to church contemporary playing.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's so regimented and structured that it's hard to break out and just improvise.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people who have
maybe
had
jazz
that
would have
experience,
been a better foundation.
True.
Okay.
But I love that when I started playing, it just became this so connected with songwriting because I would play the piano and really I wanted to play because I wanted to songwrite. So I got better at playing.
So you didn't want to just play just to play.
No.
You wanted to write songs.
Yeah, I wanted to write songs.
So the creative process was part of who you are right from the start.
Yeah. And I think that's where the melodies for songs came is because I would spend hours at home in my living room just trying to find the best melodies and just it was just an obsession. And I remember growing up, so 15 to 20, it was just this, it grew from a little hobby that I loved to this is what I want to do with my life. I absolutely love it. And I remember I would stay up in my room probably until 3 a.m., 4 a.m., making these demos and just writing these songs for no one except God. It was just, I just loved writing church music because that's what I was around. And
now, did you know if you were doing the proper structure, the proper chord progressions? I mean, there's music theory and certain keys are all supposed to go together. It's beyond me, but you know what I mean? You can't just put a bunch of chords randomly together. They have to fit.
Yeah, so I think my mum recognized that there was, well, both my parents did, but I guess my dad could just say it's really good, but mum's got the musical experience.
Oh, right. Well, that's helpful.
Yeah, so she recognized that there was a talent there, and then she suggested, why don't you go to some lessons? And Planet Shakers at the time, I'm sure they still are, they were holding lessons for piano, guitar, but also one of them was songwriting.
Oh, okay.
And so BJ Pridham, who's a dear friend of mine, one of my best friends, he actually taught me how to play from my heart. And it was more than just, chords that kind of just sounded clunky, but to really express myself. And he's an amazing songwriter. So he really recognized, I guess, some gold underneath the rubble.
That's a nice way of putting it.
No, it really was, because I really wasn't that great, but he recognized that I could be. And
isn't that wonderful?
It is. When you find people, and that's what I try and do because I've learned that from him. It's so powerful when you recognize.
It's so great to have somebody believe in you.
Yeah. Encouragement goes a long way.
Yeah.
It goes a long way. And I remember I got so encouraged when I would bring him these little ideas, like a little chorus I'd been working on, and he was just so impacted by it and encouraged me so much. So that really kind of fanned into flame this passion for songwriting and playing piano. And eventually I actually wrote a full song and showed him and made a demo. And he ended up sending that. I didn't know about it, but he sent that to our pastor, Pastor Russell. And at that time, I was probably 20 years old. And I was in Bible college. And I remember sitting in that room and we were learning, we were taking some subject. And Pastor Russell was lecturing. And then at the end of that, I guess, lesson, he motioned to the sound guy at the back of the room and is like, okay, do that thing. And I'm like, everyone's kind of going, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, I recognize this song that's playing. It's this demo that I sent BJ, and he had sent it to Pastor Russell, and he just starts playing this song to everyone in the room. And
I remember, say why?
No, which is kind of how he rolls. He's just so, which I love that. But he just started playing it, and I remember feeling it was a really special moment, not just for me. I think it was just a lot of people started crying, and I started crying.
Really?
Yeah, because it was this worship song called "Towards Calvary," about Jesus walking towards Calvary when he didn't have to save us, but he still chose to. And it was a moment where I felt so affirmed. I felt so validated in the area of songwriting, and to see that minister to people in the room.
I mean, as a songwriter, what more could you ask for?
I know. It was really special, and I think that was definitely one of the moments where God was showing me this is what he had called me to do. So we actually ended up singing that song in church, and then I started writing some songs for church.
Like in the big church?
Yeah.
Your own song?
Yes.
Oh, that had to be a thrill.
It was, I can't even describe it. It was just so beautiful. And
this was this little song I was just playing by myself.
Totally. And
now you're hearing a whole room full of people?
And
auditorium?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So I think that's something that I've always tried to hold on to as I've grown in songwriting, and as the opportunities have expanded. I've always tried to hold on to the reason why I started in the first place. And that's just because I love it, and I love writing a song that could, move the heart of God. How do you do that? I don't think there's anything better than that. I just think it's the most incredible thing. And I remember writing that song in my room by myself. I showed it to a friend who showed it to our pastor, and it grew from there.
Yeah.
But I never wrote it to do that. It was just because I loved writing music. And I remember continuing to write songs for church, and eventually in my early 20s, it was a pretty tough year, I'll be honest. And, we go through a lot of things as early 20-year-olds, and I was going through a really just tough year. It was, and I wrote 2 songs out of brokenness, and which was actually really unusual.
Which, as you know, some of the best stuff comes out of
but
brokenness.
it's so painful
at the time.
At the same time, yes.
Yeah.
So it was really unusual for a year to go by and have written 2 songs, because I'd been writing a lot before then, and that was a real indicator that this was not a good season, and it was just really tough. It was kind of a season where I was building my faith because I wanted it to be on solid ground and not in anything else. And it was just not the easiest season, but I remember writing 2 songs out of that, and eventually we sang those at church. And to see those songs, so one of them The first one was called I Know Who You Are. And the second one is called Sings My Soul. And they ended up being recorded by Planetshakers and sung at church. When I saw them reach people and minister to them and help them in their brokenness, that was the moment I said to God, I will do this for my whole life if you make a way. This is all I want to do, is just write songs.
That's cool.
So that was definitely the moment for me that really marked me for songwriting, because up until then it had been really, really fun and awesome. But when it gets to a broken place and you write a song, that's when it becomes really real. Because I remember the bridge that I wrote, which is the first part that I wrote for I Know Who You Are. The lyric was, I may not have much left, but you provide. And that lyric for me was a real turning point, because I wasn't just writing what I knew was the right thing to say. It was actually writing in a very honest way, because at the time, if I can be honest, I was depressed and I may not have much left. It was a real like rock bottom, the worst place, but I still had faith, and I said, I may not have much left, but you provide. And that was a key to me, because there's nothing wrong in writing from your honesty, but if you stay in your circumstance, nothing's going to change. So by saying, but you provide to God, it was still showing that I had a heart of faith that this can change. I know that you can provide a way for me to get out of this valley. And yeah, that was when I learned to write honestly in my songs. And it was just a beautiful way to write and to see that reach people and help them through their dark times.
I may not have much left, but you provide. With every waking breath, I lift you high. You hear my every prayer, you are by my side. God, I know you. God, I trust you. I may not have much left, but you provide. With every waking breath, I lift you high.
That's the song I Know Who You Are, performed live by Planetshakers and written by our guest today, Mitch Wong. He wrote, I may not have much left, but Lord, you provide. And that's a profound truth for all of us to remember. When we feel like we have little left and our tank is almost empty, the Lord provides for us and gives us strength. Well, thanks for joining us for part one of our conversation with Grammy award-winning singer and songwriter Mitch Wong. We invite you to join us again next time when Mitch will share more of his story and his road to winning a Grammy Award. That's all coming up next time. Until then, I'm Jimmy Colfax, encouraging you to share your story with someone today.
Next time on The Story.
I was just about to finish my arts degree, and in my head I was thinking, great, I can finally start doing music full-time, jump straight into it and do it full-time. But I felt God say, I actually don't want you to jump full-time yet, because you're not ready and you're not mature enough. Which is pretty humbling for an early 20-year-old to be like, like in my head I'm like, are you sure, God? I really want to do music. But he said, I actually want you to do a law degree.
Australian singer and songwriter Mitch Wong joins us once again to share more of his story and some of the unexpected twists and turns on his road to winning a Grammy. That's more of Mitch Wong's life journey coming up next time.
The Story. Just another way Vision is connecting faith to life.